Hey guys.
Good morning, guys.
Good
Good morning,
morning.
Houston, Texas.
Hope you guys are doing well on this fine Wednesday morning.
Oh,
Um,
it's dark.
well, one of us does.
I've been getting a lot of sun.
Yeah, I'm jealous. I need to get
Finally.
out there. You don't have to rub it in.
I just do.
Yeah, I know. Stop. Okay, so this morning we wanted to talk about first-time home buyers. Wanted to kind of go through what some of the common misconceptions about, home ownership and the process and that sort of thing. And maybe kind of give some information that might help either you or someone if you have a little brother or, sister or something that just hasn't purchased a home and maybe they need some questions answered. Hopefully this will serve you. Trying to see if we are connected here. Oh, well, I'm just going to continue. Wanted to go over, I think what we're going to do, the best way to handle it is probably just a little bit of role play between Og and I on, what a typical interaction with someone who is just looking to purchase. And honestly, this can really be for people who maybe owned a home in the past, but could have hit some financial problems, and maybe they've been renting for a while, and so they're a little nervous about getting back into the process, but know that maybe they need to do it. Hey, Mom. Good morning.
Hey.
Okay, we are connected, so that's good. Sometimes people, they hit rough patches in life, and it can impact them. Some people end up maybe losing a home. And so they're super nervous about getting back into homeownership, which is completely understandable. So this honestly can, help someone like that as well. So
listen, Jen, I've been renting since I got out of college, and I have a job now, and I need to become an adult, and I've been renting, but the whole process kind of intimidates me.
Mm-hmm.
I don't even know where to start. And I really don't know if home ownership is for me. Can I really get a home?
I remember feeling that way. Do you remember feeling that way?
I do.
Do you remember feeling that way? I purchased my first home mid-20s.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a great job, and I didn't have a whole lot of savings, but I knew that I really wanted to own my first home. I just didn't know if it was for someone like me. So I contacted a lender and kind of got started. And it's interesting because, I didn't know what all was involved from a financial perspective. And, I think that there's a lot of misconceptions out there of, the amount of money that you need to get into a home. And I just remember being intimidated and didn't know if I was going to be able to qualify. And there were programs out there that really worked in helping me buy my first home, which I think was $106,000. It was a house in Katy that we bought way back when. And
I wish we still
had that house, because I think it's worth, like 180 or something now. And it was like the perfect little one story. And it was cool because it had been updated by the owners.
That's right.
So whenever we moved in, it wasn't like it was a real overwhelming home to own. It was like 1,500 square feet, and it was perfect for us. And so the mortgage was manageable, and we were able to get in without a lot of money down and all of that. So, okay.
So I'm interested in a house. What are we looking at as far as like down payment is concerned?
So I realize that, most people, a lot of people believe, and I understand this because it is a smart financial move, is to have 20% down so that you don't have to pay mortgage insurance. And I get that, but not everyone has that kind of money to put down. And I still feel like you need to start making the investment instead of waiting what could be years for you to save that kind of down payment. Basically, when you're renting, you're paying a mortgage, but you're paying somebody else's mortgage, and plus what amount they need to feel comfortable renting it out. So there is a little bit extra that's always built into all of these rent payments that covers if they need to switch something out in between, it's all their maintenance stuff, and it's also what makes it worth it for them to invest their money. So really, I would rather see you start investing in real estate rather than holding off if it's going to take you quite a long time to save up that 20%, because what can happen is that even though you're paying the mortgage insurance, your mortgage many times is still going to be less than that rent payment that you're making. And then over all that time, you're not only paying down the mortgage, but if you purchase something in the right way, then it's appreciating. And so you end up getting to that 20%. And if you're paying less than what you would if you were renting, you're also still able to save that money like you were whenever you were planning on saving the 20%. So depending on the loan product that you have, you can either refinance once you have 20% equity, or you can reamortize, which means that you can eliminate the mortgage insurance. So there are ways that you can still achieve that, but at the same time be investing in something that is appreciating in value while you are paying down the mortgage, which is a better investment over time. So just so you know, minimum down out there, they have FHA has a 3.5% minimum down, and conventional, if your credit is better, has a 5% minimum down. And so both of those products work well, and they also have down payment assistance programs out there if you truly, are needing help with the cash to get into something. And then VA loans, if you're a veteran, you can do 100% loan. So you've earned that right. So always keep those things in mind. There are products out there that can work depending on your situation.
So what other, so now we've talked about, you've explained to me different down payment situations. And are there any other financial concerns or responsibilities that I should be expecting during the process? Because I don't really like surprises.
Yeah, no, I hear you. Yes, there are a few other things. There are going to be closing costs that are related to your loan. So that's why it's incredibly important to reach out to a lender and not only talk about what loan programs are best for you, but also get a quote on what those closing costs are. And the thing is this, there are many situations where you can actually negotiate for those closing costs within the transaction, that the seller can provide a concession towards those closing costs. Now, that doesn't mean that, the seller is technically paying them for you. I mean, that is the way that the money routes, but you always kind of have to keep in mind that on the seller side, they have to be okay with what that net is between the sales price and those closing costs. So essentially the end of that really kind of has to be what they would be okay negotiating a sales point at being anyway. And technically you're kind of rolling those closing costs into your loan. But you can negotiate for them if you don't have all of that in cash. Good morning, Josie.
Good morning.
So, that's really going to kind of depend on, the property and all of that. So, there are ways around the closing costs as well. But, it's always great it increases your negotiating power on sales price if you don't have to ask for the closing costs. Other financial concerns. So other financial items that you're going to have to consider whenever you enter into a transaction are earnest money. Earnest money is typically 1% of the contract value. So that is that's the money that you put up at the beginning, it's basically a deposit. It holds the house for you. So you write a check to the title company and they hold the earnest money. And then it gets credited back to you at closing. So that's one thing. Another is what's called an option fee. Option fee just kind of depends on the price point. It can vary between, $100 to, like $300, depending on where it is that you're purchasing. And that actually gets paid to the seller. They deposit the check, and that gives you your unrestricted right to terminate the contract for any reason during the first 10 days. Typically 10 days. That's a negotiable thing as well, but it's typically 10 days. During that 10 days is when you get your inspections done. So, you try to go ahead and get your inspections done at the beginning of that 10-day period, and then you have to have all repairs negotiated within that time. And then, you've got inspections, and depending on, what the property is that you're purchasing, that's typically a structural inspection, may run around $500. Termite inspection, around $100. If you're getting a pool inspection, that adds, $150, $200 on.
What about like septic?
Yeah, you're going to have to do that as well. A lot of the time they have a contract already on the septic system, so you can get those people out to do an inspection, or they, may have recently maintained it. But yeah, so those are costs that you need to consider. So I would say basically, okay, so then the option fee actually gets credited to you at closing as well. If for some reason you opt out during that first 10-day period based on inspections or whatever else, you lose the option fee, you lose your inspection money, but you get your earnest money back. And the only other cost outside of the transaction and what is due at closing is the appraisal. So the appraisal runs about $400 or so. And so you're going to pay that to your lender, and that's going to be right after the option period. And that's so that they can send an independent appraiser out to, make sure that the value of the property is what it needs to be for the lender to make the investment. So that is the only other cost outside of that. So those are the things that you kind of need to have in mind as you lead up to possibly purchasing a property.
So it'd be down payment.
Down payment is yes, and that's all included in your closing cost estimate that you get from the lender as well. So they run numbers, and it includes whatever down payment based on whatever program you're using. Also your closing costs. So they give you a quote of a number. And
so that's on the loan.
And that's at closing. And your earnest money is also something that you pay up front. Earnest money is up front, but then it gets credited against that figure at the end. Okay. And then you have
the
option fee, and then you have your appraisal.
And the inspection.
And the inspections, yes. Okay.
Okay.
And so it's incredibly important to, start talking to a lender up front, talk with an agent, really nail down what it is that you're going to need based upon your own specific situation. And I know a lot of the time people are like, oh, I don't want to contact a lender yet because my credit's not exactly where I want it to be yet. It can actually be very beneficial to talk to a lender ahead of time because they, there's different credit for different purchases. And I don't know that a lot of people know that. If you go buy a car, your credit that they pull is different than the credit that they pull if you buy a house. There are things that, the underwriters find important for various loan products. So what a lender will pull for a mortgage loan is going to be different. And they also are going to be able to look at that and be able to tell you, if there's a couple of things that you need to adjust, if you need to pay off this one little thing versus something else, they can help you strategize to make sure that your credit score gets where it needs to be more quickly. And so I think that
to develop an action plan,
because then you may qualify for a different loan product that's actually cheaper. So it's just important. I mean, even if it's 6 months or a year in advance, to go ahead and do that, and then you can come out with the game plan. You know, a lot of people think they don't need to contact an agent or a lender until they're ready to buy, but you've got to understand that this is a long-term relationship. It's not a short-term relationship. There are people that I work with for quite a long time before we ever end up at a closing table, and that's absolutely okay. You know, it's got to be the right time and the right situation and the right home and all those things. And sometimes those things take time.
So would you, and this is just a question, should I approach my bank, or should I work with a mortgage broker, or what?
You really should work with a local lender that an agent recommends and works with all the time.
Why is that?
Well, okay, let's say you are in a situation where you are, you're paying the minimum down and you're asking for closing costs, and the listing agent is looking at that and they're a little concerned about whether that's going to make it to closing. I mean, there are concerns because it's a little bit higher risk. But if you've got a pre-approval letter from a lender that is local, that you know and trust, that's always helpful. So I think that's one reason. Another reason is that they can typically get you the best deal, which I think is what people want. Ultimately, at the end of the day, they need to make sure that not only are they getting the best deal, but they're also getting the service that they deserve. These people are motivated to, close early, get everything done, and it's all a smooth process because they can make or break it. So it's incredibly important to work with a tried and true lender that agents work with.
Would you say that they have the ability to find a larger variety of products out there?
For sure. And I think that, yes, and I think that if they've been doing it for a long time and they're really good at what they do, they're going to be able to find the best loan product for an individual, and a lot of the time when you're buying the first time, since you don't have a ton of money to put down and maybe you don't have established credit and things like that, you really want someone who can be creative, within the guidelines that are set, and be able to find you the best deal and product for your situation. And those people know what to do. And if, there are things that pop up, they're going to know how to take care of those things in order to keep a transaction together, and ultimately give them what they want. So those are all important things. Lenders they're everything.
And I guess, and I'm not role playing right now, but I guess also the fact that some of the banks, when you're working with a bank, I mean, after 5 o'clock rolls around and you need
there are a lot of really bad stories about that.
You're not going to be able to get a hold of them.
Well, and they're not emotionally connected and in it, like, I don't want to offend anyone out there if you work for the bank, but I just, I've had much better results working with local lenders, mortgage bankers that, it's just a better process. I've had people that just kind of go silent towards the end of the transaction and we're trying to get things done, and it's just terrible. So I would definitely follow the lead of your agent whenever it comes to the lender.
Okay, so now I'm role playing. So you've explained to me, a little bit about loans and loan programs and down payment and some of the other miscellaneous expenses that I should be looking or expect to pay during the process of the transaction. As a first-time home buyer, what kind of property should I be looking at? Like what should I be investing my money in as far as my first home?
Well, I think it depends on a few things. I think it depends on what your cash flow looks like. Mm-hmm. You don't want to be house poor. And if you don't have a ton of cash flow, you definitely don't want the kind of house that you're going to end up having to throw a lot of cash into. So I will say that a lot of the time whenever I'm helping first-time home buyers shop, I'm trying to really look at condition. You know, obviously location and all that, it's all important. But if it's going to be a short-term thing in that this is your stepping stone to the next house, I want to make sure that, you know, one, it's going to be something that is going to be easy for me to resell in a couple or 3 years, meaning that you'll get the most money because it will sell quickly. And also that the condition is such that, you know, you're just not having to throw a bunch of money at systems and things. That can really kind of spoil your idea of homeownership right off the bat. You know, that's not the fun things to spend your money on. The fun things are, you know, painting and making things cute and, you know, doing landscaping and stuff like that. But, you know, having to all of a sudden throw a ton of money in systems, that's kind of a big deal. So I do find myself kind of looking out for people in that way whenever we're shopping.
Yeah, nobody wants to, yeah. Some of those systems can be very expensive, whether it's a roof or the AC or.
So your monthly cash flow is kind of important whenever it comes to that, because that is the difference between renting, is that all of a sudden those things do become your responsibility. But you can kind of be careful on the front end to make sure that you're not biting off more than you can chew. Those things are important to consider.
Okay.
So anyway, just kind of wanted to go over, you know, the high points of being a first-time home buyer or getting back out again after you haven't been a home buyer in a while, and the things that you can expect from the process, and, you know, what we do to kind of navigate that.
Yep. And then I guess we can, if you guys needed some guidance or suggestions as far as mortgage people.
Oh, no, for sure.
We can
please reach out.
Reach out to us.
And if you have a long-term plan, I mean, if it's something that you're looking at doing a year from now, 2 years from now, I mean, don't hesitate to reach out. I don't mind answering questions.
I guess even if they want to refinance, right?
Oh, for sure.
Right.
Yeah. We've got, Mom's saying hi, Hannah. Yeah, she always stars on the show, doesn't she?
Yeah.
There she is. Anyway, so
what else?
I guess that's it.
Have we drawn it out too long?
I think we've drawn it out too long.
No, I think it's good.
If it's a long-term plan and you just, you know, kind of want to get started and figure out, you know, what your specific situation looks like based on your income, based on your credit score, based on, you know, your cash flow, that sort of thing, absolutely reach out. We are always happy to help, and I can put you in touch with incredible lenders that can most definitely set you on the path to homeownership.
And how can they reach you?
I'll put my number in my email in the comments.
There you go.
Okay. All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank
Hope
you guys
have
for
a great
tuning
day.
in. Y'all have a great day. We'll see y'all.
Bye.